Hilchis Keilim Perik Shisha V'Esrim. Kli Eitz Haroi Lemedris, Shekove B'Koisel B'Teich HaBinyan. You're in the middle of building a wall, and now you took this Kli Eitz, which is Roi Lemedris, and you affixed it in this wall inside the binyan. No, it's not next to the binyan. Because you take a chair and you connect it to a binyan, that's nothing. That doesn't take away any dinim of the chair. Over here we're talking about it's a Kli Eitz, which is Roi Lemedris, and you put it on the wall in the place where you're building. B'teich HaBinyan, so it depends. Kavi b'kesel v'lei ban al gabav, even though you affixed it to the wall, you connected it to it, you attached it to the wall. But lepel, there was nothing built on it, so it could still be detached. Oy ban al gabav, or if you even started building on top of it, but lepel v'lei kavi, you didn't connect really this keli to the wall. So in other words, either you connected the keli to the wall and you didn't start building on top of it, or you built on top of it, but on the other end, you didn't really connect it to the wall. So it's adayin mistami b'medris kshoya. So it's still, since it was a keli that was roy lemedris, and it's not really lost its din, so therefore, even though it is connected to the wall, or it's b'teich habinyan and you started building on top of it, nevertheless, it still retains its din keli. However, kavi b'masmerim, in those, you banged it in with nails, so you were a kavi, and also a bon olive, and you started building on top of it. So therefore, it can no longer function as a keli. You know, if you abun, even though you're covered masmerim, but since it's still a functional keli, so therefore it could be a keli which is attached to the binyan. Mashenkin, it was covered masmerim, and also bon olav tor is tor. So that's the din when you're building a building, for example, and you were covered. You took this keli which is roy lemedris, and you connected it to this process of the building of the building. So then we say it depends. If it was sai kavib masmerim and sai bon al gabav, so then the din is that it loses its din medris. Masha'inkin, if it was just either kaveh or bon al gabav, one without the other, so then it doesn't lose its din of being a roy lemedris. That the chain mapots, same idea would be a mapots. A mapots is a mat. Shenosne al gabi akeres. So you have over there we're talking about you're actually building in the building. You're in the wall. But over here you have already the beams on top. You built already a building, and you have the beams on top. Now on top of it, you're putting a mat. Now kove, you connected this mat to the beams on top, because you can make a roof now, or you make a ceiling on top. But you didn't spread out any ceiling, any cement over the mat. You know, you connected the mat to the beams on top, but you didn't put the maziva on top of it. Or you should not all of a maziva. You have a mat which is loose, in other words, it was never connected to the beams. Nosne all of a maziva, but v'lei kove, you didn't actually bang in this mat into the beams, is mistami b'medris. However, kove v'nosne all of a maziva, you did both, so then it's tor. So that's this din. In other words, you have a keli which is roy lemedris, and now you connected it to a binyan. So if you connected it in apron of kove and also bon al gabav, so then it's tomei, then it's tor. Al der is there. You have a mapatz and you connected it to the kaira, to the kairas, and then also you put the maziv on top of it, so it's tor. Mashenk, if you only did one without the other, so still remains a roy lemedris and makabel tum. Halacha beis safsel shenitl echad miroshav. You have a bench that has two legs on both sides, and one of the legs were taken off, so now the safsel is really on a slant. Or really the safsel could really be connected to a wall and also be used without that particular foot. So the din is arayun roy lemedris, it's still roy lemedris. Nitl asheni, but if the other leg was also taken off, so then tor. V'miyeshbe gave a tefa, but if the safsel itself, without the legs, have a height of a tefa, so maybe when you'll be sitting on top of the safsel, you'll be as tefach elevated from the ground, is mistami b'medris. Halacha gimel, kisei shel kala, shenitlo chipuyav. Now a kisei shel kala was a special type of chair, and they would put like very fancy things on top of the chair. So therefore, if that chipui, that covering, which was done as something which was very nice for the kala, was taken off, so it's not already roy, because it's not a chair that a normal person sits on. It's a chair that only a kala sits on. And if the chipuyim aren't there, so the kala is not going to sit on it. So therefore, it's not roy for sitting at all. However, so therefore it's tor. Now this is vice tois, that the chair would be in a way that the top of the chair would be sticking out. So therefore, you wouldn't be able to turn over the chair and sit on the side of the chair. So it's either you're sitting on the regular place of the chair, and that would be something a kala would do if the chipuyim are there, or if the chipuyim aren't there, so the kala wouldn't do it, and the regular person wouldn't be doing it as well. However, but if these chipuyim, in other words, the part of the top of the chair would be not sticking out, so therefore, really, you're able to turn it over. If these chipuyim wouldn't be sticking out of the chair, and therefore you're able to turn over the chair and sit on the chair in a different way, not in that fancy way the kala would sit on it, but use it as a regular chair. Is adayin hu roy lemedrash shekain darga lias mateu al tzida b'yeshav olav. Not sure that the setup over here, but the nekudas advarim is that you can have a chair which, let's say, the top of the chair where you actually sit on is sticking out. So therefore, you can't really turn it over because it'll prevent. It won't be able to. It's sticking out maybe from all sides. So therefore, you're not really able to turn it over. So you can't really sit on its side. So then it's either made for a kala, and that's only with the chipuyim, or it's not made for a kala, and therefore it's not roy. Masha'enkin, if those things aren't sticking out, so then you could turn it over, and a regular person could sit on it, and therefore it's roy lemedus. Halacha dalit. Kisei shenitli chipuyim. Now we're talking about a regular chair. Now a regular chair, let's say, is made with like thin pieces of wood on top of the chair. Let's assume there's 3 pieces of wood on top of the chair. That's how you sit on it. Now, if one of those pieces of wood were taken away, so even though it's not as comfortable at lapel, since there's still 2 pieces of wood together, so therefore it's still, you could sit on it. Even if you sit on it, even if you take away, that's what he's saying. Halacha dalet. Kisei shenitli chipuyev. A kisei, which the top of the kisei, which is those pieces of wood, which is the top of the kisei, where you actually sit on, were taken away. Abavadayin hu roy yeshiva, but you could still sit on it. Because lapel, there's some of the pieces of wood that's still there, is mistami. However, nitlu shnayim b'chipuyev zeh mitzad zeh is Torah. So if you have, let's say, 2 pieces of wood next to each other, they were both taken, so mele that makes a very big hole in that piece, in that chair, so therefore it's uncomfortable to sit on. So therefore, even if you have a piece of wood left on both sides even, but I'll cope on, since you have 2 pieces of wood, which is like a hole, a big hole in the chair, so therefore that chair becomes not longer roy to be sat on, and therefore it's no longer mekabel tumas medus. Halacha hey, shida shenitl ha'elyin shelo. You have a chest that the top part of the chest was taken off. Says you could sit on the top part of the chest. Is tmei mit mishntei atachten, because you could also sit on the bottom part. Shehu roy lemedus nitl atachten. The bottom part was taken. Tmei mitnei elyin nitlu shneim. So now you just have those sides. You don't have the top. You don't have the bottom. So harei adapim teirim. So the sides of those chests are tehirim because they're not really miyuchat to sit on. Even maybe you could put them down next to each other and sit on them. But lapel, that's not their setup. They're not to sit on them. The mela, so they're tehirim. Allah chavav. Teva shenivchasa mitzida. You have a box which has an opening on the side and got opened on the side. And there was a box and then it became nivchasa mitzida. Is mistami b'medus or b'shar tumis. It's still mistami b'medus because you could sit on top, and also b'shar tumis because lapel it could contain things. Mepnei sheiruya afli yeshiva v'akil yeshnola. People sit on it, so therefore it's mistami sai b'medus sai b'shar tumis. Now nivchasa milmaila, the top of it came off, is teirim and amedus because people aren't going to turn over this box and sit on it. It's not like vice is the chest which you could sit on the bottom. By the box, by the teva. Over here, if you don't have the top, so it's Teirim and Amedus, Sharei Einer Rui L'Shiva, Aber Mistam B'Shartum, Sharei, he had Mikabelis. Now, Nifchasa Mulmata was also Nifchasa Mulmata, is Teirim Mikol Tumah, Aval Pi, She'ef Shir I'm sorry, Nifchasa Mulmata means it was only Nifchasa Mulmata. Whereas before we're talking about a Teva that had a top and a bottom, so Memela, since Lepel, it's a Teva which is Miyuchad to put things in, and lepel, people also sit on top of the teva, so it's sai mekabel sh'ar tumas, and sai is mitam b'shum tumas medras. Now, if it was nifchas mata, so it could no longer contain anything. I l'chur gura can't contain anything, but you could still sit on top. The answer is no, because it's not really made to sit on top. It's made to contain things. While you're containing things, so you sit on top. But if it's no longer containing anything, so memela, so the fact that you can sit on top is not a reason for it to mekabel tumah. Nivchas umulmata, like we learned before, tehira mikol tumas, aval b'she'ef shaleishav ola kikisei, mipnei she'ikar ma'aseh l'kabbalah, ki ikar ma'aseh l'kabbalah. The purpose of this teva was in order to contain things, ukvar bottle ikar, and the ikar is bottle. Now this teva v'hamagura sheba, the drawers, if you have a drawer in this teva, is mistamis. They do become tummy because they're considered a keli b'fnei atzma. They're not considered mechuber to the teva. In other words, they're not considered as if when this becomes tummy, the teva becomes tummy, or the other way. In other words, they're considered a separate entity, and memela each megura is considered a separate entity as mekabel tumah if he's a royal kabel. V'chein mashpelis. Mashpelis is a keli which you take out zevel with it, you take out the waste with it, and sheniv chasam mekabel remainim, and it became there's a hole in this mashpelis, and therefore it's no longer able to be mekabel remainim. So lepel, so it's not really a klei kibul anymore. Is afal pisharui lemedus, even though the fact that it's nifchas and mekabel remainim, but it's still roy lemedus. Abaharei tehelim miklum mipnei sheikar masel lekabola. The hill batul ikar batul atvela knows a mashpelis is not is royal medrus, and therefore it's mekabel to medrus. But that's only when it's a functional mashpelis, which means it doesn't have holes. Kidei lehetzi remainim, mekabel remainim. Masha'inkin, if it has holes, that the holes will be mekabel remainim, nifchas and mekabel remainim, and those remainim won't be able to stand in this mashpelis. So it becomes uis keli, that's a klei kibul, and memela it's also a uis keli, which is royal medrus. Halacha zayin, areva shalates, if you have a large bowl of wood, shemegablim bo habinyan eis agifsis. Rose, you make cement over there, or plaster, aval pi shemekabelish artumis, because it's a keli royal kabbalah, and in lepel you could sit in this keli as well. Nevertheless, ein mistamim b'medrus. It's not mistamim b'medrus because it's not regular to sit in this keli because the keli is dirty, and therefore a person wouldn't want to sit in this keli, and therefore it's not mekabel shartums. Now, b'shaloshin by sabotzik, if you have a keli which you need dough in it, shemachzekes mishnei lugim v'tisha kabin, which the size is from the size, in other words, the smallest size is that it's mekabel shnei lugim, and the largest size, what we're talking about a keli, which is atisha kabin, and shenizdeka, and there's a crack in that keli. The crack is so big that you can't even wash one foot in it. In other words, you're going to put water in there, and you're going to put 1 foot in it. So the water is going to go out so fast, and you're not going to have a chance to wash your foot. Is arezu mistambe b'medrus. So now we're learning a new din that you have a keli, which this keli was a keli l'kabbalah, and normally this keli l'kabbalah wouldn't be royal l'medrus, because lepel will say amed v'nasim lachtenu. This areva, if it would be a complete areva, as we'll learn, so it's not mekabel medrus. But now over here, this areva is nizdika, and it's a large areva, so it's royal medrus. So therefore, if it's nizdika to the extent where any yochel lirchitz to be mekabel mayim lirchitz afil ragla achas, so then it's mistambe b'medrus. Why? Because regularly when you have this size of an areva and it has this crack, shekoifsa, you'll turn it over. V'yeshiv aleh lefi godla v'stakshalo. Understanding, is taking into account the size of this areva and its crack, so it's normal for it to be used as to turn it over and to use it as something to sit on. Now hinicha b'kshamim achenit b'cha v'nistach mastak. You went ahead and put it in the rain, and it became, in other words, it expanded, and therefore the crack got closed up. So then it's ein mistambe b'medrus. So then it's not mistambe b'medrus anymore. Shari roy lo lishba. Utchilas masel lo lishba. The purpose was l'chatchila. This keli is the keli lo lishba. It's a keli to knead in it. So while it was cracked, so therefore you don't knead in it and you use it for medrus. Mashenki, now that it's back, roy to be used for kneading because the crack got closed up. So now it's no longer mekabel tumas medrus. It's mekabel shar tumas. Because it's tchilas masel lolishba umekabel l'shar tumas. Now chazer v'yinicha b'kodim, you put it into the east wind, and therefore as a result of that it got dried up, and v'nivtach hasdak, and then the crack again opened up. So it's again chazer l'kabel tumas medrus. So it's mekabel tumas medrus utahira mishar tumas, and it's tar mishar tumas. Now the lashon of the Ram is tar mishar tumas. It's a little bit schwer because we learned that anything that's royal l'kabel medrus is midrabon mekabel shar tumas. So some people want to say that it's royal, that it's tahira mishar tumas, because in other words it's tahira mishar tumas on midrabanan. In other words, on a deraisic level. In other words, while it was a complete keli, so it was mekabel shar tumas midiraisa. Mashenki now, it's no longer Makabel Sh'ar Tumas Midiraisa because it's not Royal Lekabel, it's only Makabel Sh'ar Tumas Midrabon. It's not the Pashtus Haloshin. I mean, maybe there's a mokum to say that if a Keli is Mamish Asui Lemedris, so then we say it's Makabel Sh'ar Tumas. Mashenki over here, this Keli is not Be'emes Asui Lemedris. This Keli was originally a Keli that was an Areva Lolushba. It's just that since it's Nizdak, the Pashtus is that you're going to turn it over and sit on it. So therefore, it has a din of a tumas mendris. So if you actually do sit on it, it's makabel tumas mendris. But on the other end, that it should be considered at kedekach royal mendris, that it should be makabel sh'ar tumas midrabon. Maybe it doesn't apply. I'm saying that it's a chidush, but maybe there's a makom to think that way, and then the lashon haram would be kipshute that rotahera mish'ar tumas halachichas. Areva gdela. This so we said that the share of this areva shenizdika would be mishnei lugim at tishakab. Areva gdela sheyesral tishakab shenifchas u'melekabel remainim. If you have a larger areva, which is larger than tishakab, and it was nifchas u'melekabel remainim, v'hichina liyeshiva, and you prepared it now liyeshiva because it's cracked, is areza tahera af mitumas medres achi yaktzia. Because it's not very regular. Since we're talking about such a large keli, so the pashtus advarim is you're not going to use it for medres, you're going to fix it. So in order for this to become a tumas medres, it's not mistama becomes a tumas medres, and even if echina yeshiva, it also doesn't become tami tumas medres. But you have to do something. You have to like cut it or do something to the keli in order to designate it for tumas medres. She'ena machshava meyalis b'areva gdela shenifchasa achi yasa b'maisa. Until you asa b'maisa, only then it is considered royal medres. Now also avos lebehema, you went ahead and took this areva gdela and you made it as a trough for an animal. Is afal pi shekava bekesel. You went ahead and took this avos and you connected it to a kesel. But lepel, since it's a keli, it's an avos lebehema as a din of a keli. So therefore, tmei b'chalatumis, it's tom b'chalatumis, but not tumas medus. B'pashtus, it's not tumas medus. Halacha tes mita shenitlu shnei aruke shela. Now a bed is made up, and there's the length of the bed and the width of the bed. So those boards that go to the length of the bed, they're called the aruches, and those boards that are going to the width of the bed are called the ktsaris. Now, in the corner, in each corner, there's something that's called a loshen, which is something that the aruches go into that loshen, and the ktsaris go into that loshen. That's how the bed holds itself. And there's like this little pole in the corner of the bed, in each corner of the bed, which the arucha, the long piece of wood, goes into that, what's called the loshen, and the short also goes in. There's like little holes, and there's something sticking out of this aruka that goes into the hole, which is in this loshen, and there's something going out of the ksara, which goes into the hole in this loshen, in this corner pole, and that's how the bed stands. That's how the bed stands. And on the bottom of those loshen and those little poles, which are holding the bed from in each corner, there's a foot. That foot would be called the kara of the bed. So there's the aruches, and there's the ksares, and there's the loshen, which is in the corner, that corner post, which those aruches and ksares go into, and then there's the kara. The kara is the foot of the bed. Now, mita shenitlu shnei aruches shelo, that those long pieces of wood which go along the length of the bed were taken. Achar shenitmas, after the bed became tamei. And now va'asula arukes chadashes, and you replaced those old arukes with new arukes. Abevelishinas hanekavim, the holes, in those they're the same holes. So basically, really, the old arukes could also be put back into its original place. In other words, those old arukes which you took out, since those holes are still the same, so those arukes which were tamei could be put back into the smita. And now the nishbura chadashes and the new long pieces of wood were broken. Is adayin hi b'tumasa, the mita is still tummy. Why? Because lepel, since those yishonis are still intact, and lepel, the hole is still there, so therefore the mita is still tummy, is nachamol. If you have a mita that becomes tummy, so now the mita is no longer the mita, you don't have that mita anymore, the mita was broken, so then it's no longer tummy. Now over here you had a mita that became tummy, you took off the two long poles, and you replaced the two long pieces of wood, and you replaced those two pieces of wood with the new pieces of wood. Now the Ram doesn't write it here. L'chura, at this point in time where there's the new pieces of wood in this bed, so l'chura, it's not tummy. I'm not 100% sure about that. Since lapel, there's new pieces of wood which are functioning in this bed, so l'chura, at this point in time, it's not tummy. But now, if those new pieces of wood were taken away, were broken, for example, and you still have the old pieces of wood, and those old pieces of wood are still intact, and they could go into these l'shonis and those corner poles, because the holes are the same. In other words, when you put in those new arukais, you use the same holes. You didn't really change the setup, so therefore the yishanis are still usable. So therefore this bed is tummy. So in other words, you have a bed that became tummy. You took away the two long poles, long pieces of wood, the long pieces of wood along the length of the bed. You replaced it with new ones, and now those new ones are no longer there. So, but the old ones are still intact, and they're still ready to go back. So therefore, the bed is tummy. Let's go again. Mita shenitlu shtei arukashul. You have a bed that the two long pieces of wood that go to the length of it were taken. Acha shenitmas, after the mita became tummy, and then v'asulu arukis chadoshes, and you replaced the old arukis with new arukis. Abavleishinas and mikav, you replaced the long arukis, the pieces of wood, but you didn't change the holes. So really, the old arukis could still go back in, and then v'nishbura chadoshes, and the new arukis are broken. Is adayin hibetumasa. The mita is still tummy, because lapel, you have the whole mita still intact. You have the mita plus the arukis shonis. Now nishtabra yishonis, if you no longer have the old long pieces of wood, which were there when it became tummy, and those yishonis are broken, so the mele is teirus, and now the mita is tar. Shakil hele chachri yishonis. Everything depends on the old pieces of wood. If the old pieces of wood are still intact, so then the mita is tummy. If the old pieces of wood are no longer intact, so then the mita is no longer tummy. Now, what happens while the new pieces of wood, the long pieces of wood, were inside? Lashna Rambam is v'nishbru achadoshes is adayin hi betumasa. So could be it means that when the new pieces of wood were there, so it's for sure was tummy. For sure was tummy. The chiddush is that even though nishbru achadoshes, nevertheless adayin betumasa, because the yishanis are still there and they can be put back. Maybe that's the pshat. I'll call upon it for sure that once the new ones aren't there anymore and the chadashes are still ready to go back in, so then it's tummy. Then the whole thing is tummy. Halacha yud mita shehoisa tmei medus and v'nitlo ktsara ushtei krayim. So you have like the width of the bed, one end of the width of the bed was taken. The short piece of wood along the width of the bed, and also the two legs of the bed. Is adayin hibutumasa, shadayin tsuras amito imedus. You still have the bed, whereas you have the whole bed, which has like three sides. Just that one side is not there. However, nitla aruko shtei krayim. If you one long piece of the bed, one long pole of the piece of wood of the bed, which is the length of the bed, and two legs of the bed. So you have three sides, but the three sides consists of the two short sides of the bed and one long side of the bed. So then it's missing the whole tzura of the bed. Is again, when you have just one side, the width of the bed, one side of the width of the bed missing. So you have the two sides of the length and one side of the width. So you still have the tzura samita. Masha'inkin, if you have just also three sides, but the two short sides and one long side, so then you're missing the tzura samita, and therefore it's no longer mekabel tum, it's no longer tummy. Halacha yudalef. Chotzatz shtei l'sheni shel mita ba'alachzin. So you went ahead and you have, like, again, as we mentioned, the long piece of wood that goes along the length of the bed from both sides, and also the short pieces of wood that go along the width of the bed, they go into what's called l'shonos. L'shonos is like maybe tongues, which you put, those pieces of wood are stuck in to these l'shonos, which is like a little pole at the end, on the corner, and that supports the bed together. Now, what happens if those l'shonos were cut off? So you have those l'shonos was cut off, and it was cut off diagonally across from each other. So you have like a long piece of you have one long piece of wood that's going along the length of it, but it's only going into the lashon on one side, and al derezeh, the short piece of wood would also be only going into the lashon on one side, and then on the other side also you have a long piece of wood and a short piece of wood, which is also going into the lashon only on one side. Normally, the long piece of wood goes into lashon on one side and goes into lashon on the other side. In the same way, the short piece of wood goes into the lashon on both sides. Here, when you have the two lashenas that were cut off diagonally, so basically what's happening is that the lush that they're all being supported only by one lashon. The long piece of wood and the short piece of wood on one side is being supported by one lashon. They're only going into one lashon. Now that is on the other side. The long piece of wood and the short piece of wood are all being supported by one lashon, and therefore it doesn't have any stability. Katzat shtei l'shenis shalmita ba'alachsin. You cut off the two sides of the bed ba'alachsin diagonally. Oishe katzat shtei kra'ayim tefach al tefach ba'alachsin. You took away a tefach al tefach of the legs ba'alachsin. Eishe miaton pachis mitefach. Or you caused that the legs should be less than a tefach tall. In other words, either you took away from the, in other words, you have legs, let's say the legs will be 2 tefachim tall. And now you went ahead and you cut off from those legs, and each leg is missing a tefach by tefach. So it comes out, so there's the instability of the bed, because you have those two legs, be'alachsin, that those legs are missing a tefach by tefach of those legs. That would be another option. So either you cut off the l'shenis ba'alachsin, which really causes instability, because the long and short pieces are not really being held. They're only being held by one lashon rather than by two, which is normal. Or you cut off shtei kra'ayim, you cut off the two legs, tefach al tefach ba'alachsin, on diagonally across each other, so they're missing a tefach al tefach of the leg. Oi, another option would be that diagonally across from each other, you cause that the leg should be less than a tefach tall. Eshemiaton pachis mitefach. You cause that the leg should be less than a tefach tall. So all of these cases are rezun nishbra. That's called that the bed was broken, and therefore utahir, and therefore it's tar. So that's this din. This din is that if you're missing the l'shenis diagonally, or you're missing the kra'ayim diagonally, or you're missing the kra'ayim, you took away a tefach al tefach from the kra'ayim diagonally, or you caused that the kra'ayim should be less than a tefach tall diagonally. So either way, this mita is considered a broken mita. So we had a case where the mita is missing the whole arucha, and the kra'ayim is called a broken mita. That was one situation. And then we had a case where the aruchas of the mita, that if the old ones are still there and the holes are the same, so as long as the old ones are still there, so it's not considered broken. But once the old ones are broken, so then it's considered, so then merely you don't have a mita. Now the Rambam continues, Nishbara aruka, you had a bed, and one long piece of wood that goes along the length of the bed that got broken, and v'tikna, and you went and you corrected it, and you made another one. So the din is adayin the avatumik shaisa. In other words, the bed was an avatuma, and now you just took off the aruka, didn't take off one aruka is missing. So one aruka is missing, so it's still a bed. It's still a bed. It was still a bed even when the aruka was missing, and now when you added the aruka to it, so it becomes part of the bed, which was an avatuma. It was an avatuma. Now nishbara haruka shniya. Now the second aruka was broken, and v'tikna, and now you were masakin it. So lepel, when you take a look at this bed, so we say this bed originally was tummy medras, but the bed was originally tummy medras. But now there's two long poles, long pieces of wood of this bed that weren't there when they were tummy medras. So it's like a new mesitzia. So it's just like we had before when nishbara yishanis. So memela, so it's nitara. So the bed is no longer tummy medras. So memela, since over here now we don't really have the original bed that was tummy medras, because we have two arukes which are missing from that bed. We have two new arukes, so therefore it's not tummy medras. But on the other hand, while it was tummy medras, we added one new aruka. Now that new aruka, so it became part of the bed which was tummy medras, but it also in its own right became maga medras. So now the rest of the bed, now when you have that the second aruka was broken, so therefore when we look at the bed, we say the bed is not tummy medras, because the two arukis that are there now weren't there when it became Tommy Medrash. So it's like a Panim Chadash's not became. But since when you added the one Aruka, so at that point in time it was Tommy Medrash, so that one Aruka became Maga Medrash, so now the rest of the bed becomes bottled to this one Aruka which was Maga Medrash. We had similar halachas before, and therefore now the whole bed has a din of Maga Medrash. Let's read again inside. Nishbara Aruka Shniya, now the second Aruka was broken, and the Tikna, and now you corrected the second Aruka, is Teherim and Amedris. The bed is no longer Tommy Tumas Medris. Aval Tmeya Maga Medris, but it's Tommy Maga Medris. That's talking about when you fixed the one Aruka before the second Aruka broke. However, Lehispik Lesaknus Rishena, Achinishbara Shniya, first the second one broke, and only then did you fix them, so that it's completely terse. Let's go it again. You have a mita. The mita became Tommy Tumas Medris. So now you went ahead and one aruka broke. Now, even though one aruka broke, lapel, the mita is still Tommy Tumas Medris. Now, when you went ahead and added this aruka to this mita, so now this aruka is also Tommy Tumas Medris because it comes bottled to a bed which is Tommy Tumas Medris. Even though the aruka wasn't there when it became Tommy Tumas Medris, but it became bottled to the bed which became Tommy Tumas Medris. Now, this second aruka broke, and now you replace the second aruka. So now you can't say the bed is Tommy Tumas Medris, because this bed with the two new arukas never became Tommy Tumas Medris. So it's like a Panim Chadosh is Nasukan, so therefore it's not Tommy Tumas Medris. But since the aruka, which when one aruka was broken, you added that aruka to the bed, so even though we said that aruka becomes Tommy Tumas Medris, but that aruka also is Tommy Tumas Maga Medris, because lepel, it's touching a bed which is Tommy Medris. So now when the bed loses its din of being Tommy Medris, but since this bed is connected to this aruka which is Tumas Magas Medris, so therefore the entire bed has a din of Tumas Magas Medris. But that's only if you added this aruka before there was two arukas missing. But if the two arukas missing, so it became Uis Maga Medris. So Memela, when you added an aruka, there's no Maga Medris, so Memela, everything is started. That's this din. Halacha Yud Beis. Mita shahoisa tmeya medris ebishar tumas. The mita was Tommy medris, or with other tumas, and lepel v'nignav chatzia, half of it was stolen, a ovet chatzia, or half of it was lost, a shechulku achim mishutfim. So the din is arezu teira, sharezu kikeli shenitzbar, because it has a din of a keli shenitzbar. So since it was divided by two shutfim, whatever. So it's just like if you have a broken keli. So the keli is no longer metame to mesmedris, no longer tame to mesmedris. So the fact that it was divided, and one took one and the other one took the other, so so it's no longer aimed to be a keli. Now here's the rule: if they put it together again, in other words, let's say the God gave it back. So enochinami, there was a time that there was no longer a keli, but now that he gave it back, is mekabel tumah mekanu lahaba. So it's mekabel tumah lahaba. It doesn't reinstate the tumah that was there before. When he took it away, it became Uis Keli. So it became Uis Keli, so it became Tur. Now when he puts it back, so he's now instating that it's a Keli. He's not instating that the original Talmudic Keli is there. So therefore, Mikabel is Tumah, Mikano Lo Haba, Riz a Daimel, Mishasa Keli Yachad, Mishivri Kelim Shnitma. Just like if you have Shivri Kelim, the Kelim was originally Tommy, then it became Shivri Kelim, and then you made the Keli again. So the Shu Tur. And it's only Mikabel Tumah Lahaba. So the same thing over here. Even though it wasn't broken, it was actually divided, but the same thing, the din of being divided has the din of being broken. Halacha Yud Gimel. Mita Shnifru Koivira, you took the Evarim, they were taken apart. Im Nishara Aruka Ushtei Krayim. So you'll have this long piece of wood, which would be the length of the Mita and the two legs. Iksara Ushtei Krayim, where you have that short piece of wood, which would go to the width, and also the two legs. Is Harei Mistam, so these pieces could become tummy on its own. The aruka, which together with the shtei krayim, or the ksara together with the shtei krayim, they sheruuyim l'samchon l'kesel v'lishnaleim, because you could connect it to a wall and sleep on it. Now the ma'isa is right now all you have is really an aruka, a long piece of wood with two legs. There's no real. The ropes were attached to this leg. Right now there's no ropes, nothing attached to it. So, that's the case Mishnah is, that you're able to connect it to a piece of, in other words, you're going to have to use some other things to connect it to a wall. In other words, the way it's standing right now, it's not going to be able to connect it to a wall. In other words, if you'd learned, for example, that this has also the mattress or or the base for the mattress. You know, it's like there's the base for the mattress, and then there's the frame around that base of the mattress. So we'll say you have like one part of the frame, just the long part of the frame, and then you have the base for the mattress. Then you'd go and put this base of the mattress on the wall, you connect it to a wall, and now you have a bed. But Lepel, the way the Kesef Mishnah says, we're talking about over here is that you really have nothing. All you have is this piece. You have this piece which is not a bed at all, and there's no base for a bed. Nevertheless, this piece could be the beginning of creating a base for the bed, and that connecting to a wall. It's hard to understand. If we're creating a whole new situation, what do I need a wall for? In other words, if the pshat is everything is here, the only thing is it's not being supported, so I need a wall. So I understand that's what we're saying. In other words, if we'd learned that you have, for example, the side of the bed, and then you have also the base where you sleep on, it's just that normally that base would be supported by the two sides and by the four sides. Over here, you only have one side. You have one side plus the base. So we say, well, you could take this one side plus the base and support that base from the wall next to it. But the way the Kesef Mishnah is saying the pshat is that you don't have anything. All you have is this one side with the two legs. So you could create a base. How are you going to create a base? You're going to create a base by putting wood between this part of the bed plus the wall and creating a base. It's a whole story. If it's a whole story, so what do you need to create it with a wall? You could create it with another base, with other parts of this bed. In other words, right now I only have one little piece of the bed. I'm not really sure, but that's what the Kesef Mishnah says pshat. Nochamol. Halacha Yud Gimel. Mita shenifruku evarel. Im nishira aruko shtei kriyayim. If you have one long piece of wood with the two legs, a ktsaro, the short piece of wood, shtei kriyayim, is areel mistam. So these pieces could become tummy mikan olaba. They're not tummy l'mafrei. I'm afraid they're not tummy. But they were tummy originally is not tummy anymore. But from now on, they could become tummy. You could connect it to a wall, v'lishna aleim, and sleep on it. As we're saying, that Lashon Aram sounds like as is. You could l'samchon al kesef v'lishna aleim. But the Kesef Mishnah says no. You could create a bed with this and create a bed. Halacha Yudal mita shenit meskula is a midbila ivarim. So it's just a large bed. You can't put it into the mikvah. So you pull it apart, and your tovel aver by aver is also teir. Halacha tezvav hamafarik es hamita lad bila and hanegea bechavolim shelo. While you're taking the bed apart, you touch the ropes, which are the ropes which you actually put between the inside of the bed. That's the base of where you're going to sleep on. Is tor, because that part doesn't become tummy. The wood, the bed around the base, that's what becomes tar. But the base itself, which is the ropes, that is not makabel tumah. Now, when the ropes are connected to the bed, so obviously the bed is tummy, the ropes are also tummy. Over here, the word is you took the bed, they're now disconnected. So the pieces, the regular pieces, the pieces of wood that were disconnected are still part of the bed, and therefore they're considered still tummy. You could be, and they're metame, and al they could become tar by going into the mikvah. Masha'inkin, when the ropes, it's brought down in the Ramar Mishnah Achrena, that the ropes, very often you're going to go and make new ropes. So Memelis Lav Dafki, you're going to re-put these same ropes back to the bed. So therefore, those ropes, after they were detached from the bed, and as you're taking the Amafarik is a mitalad bila. So those ropes at that point in time is not makabel tumah, is not tumah. It does not negeh b'chavom shlotor, because once they were taken apart from the bed, so they don't have a din of tumah anymore.